Talk 360. Talk 360 for in-depth analysis on the week's news with Latif.
What we're saying is that the United Nations report is basically pointing fingers. So let's also not keep pointing fingers. What's the way forward? When the leaders were meeting in Kampala yesterday, they discussed this and they just said, oh, come on, you M23 rebels, please stop talking about overthrowing the government. Please go back into diplomacy. Please. This doesn't seem to be suggesting anything. I mean, I don't see any outcome, any positive outcome out of telling people, please stop saying that you want to overthrow a government that wants to arrest you.
No, I think the beginning point is that, Joseph Kabila was in Kampala. And the beginning point is facing these issues with some level, sort of lack of hypocrisy. We need to remove the hypocrisy from it. If I was convening that meeting in Kampala, I would have invited the head of M23. So as you say, there's this, because you cannot speak to somebody who is not there in the first place. That's pretentious. I mean, you look at what Dambo Beki did in Southern Sudan. It started by recognizing that there are two parties. But, regional heads of state should first of all recognize there's a dispute in the Republic of Congo. And say that the dispute is between the government in Kinshasa and the M23 rebels. By the way, Dr. Matsanga has mentioned something about the sheer size, other than the minerals, of Congo. Do you know now, Kenya Airways has got a flight to Lubumbashi. From Nairobi to Lubumbashi, it takes shorter time than from Lubumbashi to Kinshasa.
Yeah.
So you can imagine.
Still by air.
Yeah.
Still by air.
3 good
Yeah.
hours.
So people of Lubumbashi may identify more with Moses Kuria than with Joseph Kabila in Kinshasa.
Yes.
Yeah, and those are the complexities of the situation. So I think I see a chance here for African diplomacy to work. But African diplomacy should start from recognizing that this is a dispute and there are two parties, each of them have got claims. By the way, I really like what Kabila said, because he said, I do recognize that M23 has got their has got some point, they have got some complaints, and I'm willing to look at them. Yeah. So I think what the regional leaders would have done is then to facilitate the dialogue
down between the two.
Like what the Mbeki did between the Sudans, or what our own government did, to bring the peace in Sudan, and we get into that process. Because if you don't do that, then we are giving all the Western powers who have got a vested interest in the minerals, of DRC, all the timber, it's a dangerous situation there.
Kenya being the sober brother, kind of, if we say.
And the big one, actually.
The big sober brother.
Yeah.
What should Kenya do to make sure that, for example, we pacify the DRC? It's to our own benefit if Rwanda, DRC, and Uganda are working well.
Yeah. I think Kenya has, if you look at our foreign policy, really, over the last years, you look at the peace dividends of Sudan. We are yet to start recognizing that. I think upset, the Lamu, South Sudan, Ethiopia is one of the dividends that we are going to get from the peace from the efforts we invested in Southern Sudan in terms of bringing peace to that part of the world. I think what we've done in Somalia is also something that the international community needs to take notice of Kenya as a regional power. And remember Dr. Matsanga and our good friends the Ugandans were there for some time, but it took really the KDF to go in there, and the results have been substantial in that. So I think that we need to look at this from a diplomatic perspective, especially because we really have Congo is a landlocked country. And our ports, the port of Mombasa, and now the port of Lamu port coming now on board. So and of course you look at our railway, the railway which we are building there. You look at Kenya Pipeline is building. That pipeline may have to be extended. So we have got vested interest. And as America, they have a role in the world. We have got
a role in the
region. We can't get.
Are you satisfied with what the Kenyan government has been doing in the last, let's say, the last 5 years?
I think we've tried our best, but all this foreign interference. We talk about the ICC. You've seen how the ICC has also destabilized Congo and that region. So within the context of all these interferences from foreign powers, we've done their best. But I think, and this is a message I don't want the international community to heed, is that Kenya being a regional power in the region is not something that can be ignored. And the more you keep, bringing all these partners in the works like the ICC, Uganda right now has withdrawn their troops from Somalia. What about if Kenya follows suit and everybody? So, we are sleeping in the same bed, and we ought to be careful how we do about it.
The other thing to add on what Moses has said is that every time, for example, the Great Lakes region leaders have said the rebels pull out of Goma. What is going to happen is that the United Nations Security Council itself is going to take time to authorize a deployment of a hybrid force.
Yeah.
To look at this scenario. What happened in Kismayo? The Americans had failed to do what Kenyans and Ugandans did in Mogadishu and Kismayo. Immediately they pacified Kismayo and Mogadishu. The United Nations Human Rights Organization came up with a report to say human rights of the people in Somalia are being, this also deters peace involvement. Countries going in because you are accused. For example, yesterday I saw a footage on one of your mouthpieces in this country where they have brought a Kenyan KDF beating people. You saw that also. These are some of the you see, there are so many dangers involved in peacekeeping, and the force that is going to go in Ngoma will have a long way. Will be a long way before it might even take 2 months. These soldiers,
it gets there.
Yeah, to get there. There is no country ready. For example, in Somalia, Uganda had to sacrifice 10,000 troops. All the countries that said in AU that they will bring the troops, all of them chickened out. And because at that time, Kenya was not allowed to send in troops into Somalia.
Yeah.
Ethiopia was not allowed. It had already withdrawn. Uganda took 10,000 troops. We battled with Al-Shabaab. Nobody came to our aid until Burundi came. So there is a problem there. If you say you are going to stabilize Goma, how long will it take?
How long will it take?
What
will it involve?
Yes, these boys are moving. These boys have the money. The M23 have money. It's not coming from Uganda. It's not coming from Rwanda. No. I've told you it's not even finger pointing. We have to come to the root cause. It's like that how do we solve this problem, which keeps on recurring every day?
I think Congo requires a new constitution.
Yeah.
I think it's time they really invest in a federal kind of government.
Yes.
Because the country is so huge, so humongous to be tried to be governed from a central system.
But will the international vested interests that are milking Congo right now allow that to happen?
Yeah, but they could have allowed it to happen with a super devolution. A super devolution of the Indian style would help Congo. Don't talk about pulling out of Ngoma.
Yeah.
So what?
Because you cannot continue governing DRC with the same old solutions.
Yes.
I remember one time, I think it was in the year 1999, I passed by that airport there. It's called Jiri Airport.
Yes.
And I was in transit to Cameroon. And at the airport, I was told by very corrupt officers, they make our police officers look like angels. And I was told that I need a visa to transit from Kinshasa to Douala. Yeah. And I told them, no, I'm not coming to your country. I'm transiting to Douala.
Yes.
They told me, no, you've got to pay for the visa. And then I said, no, I'm not paying. Then I told them, no, I'll better report you to the police. So they told me, no, the nearest police station is 200 kilometers away. So you need a flight to get there, which flight I also control.
So you had to part with something.
Yes, you have to part with something. Yes. That is how many years ago, my friend? That is 12 years ago. Yes. Nothing much has changed about DRC. Yes. So you cannot convince me now that you can come and try and control and solve the problem with the same old solutions that have been tried and they have not worked. Yes. I think the region needs to help Congo to get into sort of a federal government.
Yes. Right.
So that we have got more people from the eastern region feel they have got a vested interest in the DRC.
Talk 360. Talk 360 for in-depth analysis on the week's news with Latif.